right. Hello. Welcome to The Rational Live for Friday, July 3rd, 2020. Great show today. At least I hope you'll think so. Number of things that I'll get to, including a couple of recent Joe Biden ads. That'll be the first story. Several videos and stories about cops. As you know, that stuff's still going on and needs attention. Airlines canceling plans for physical distancing. Grocery store workers fighting back. And who unhappy voters want, Democratic voters want for vice president. So stick around for that. All right. So first, welcome. I hope you're all doing well. I hope your state or your province or wherever you're living isn't too impacted by COVID-19 right now, but chances are, if you're in the States especially, you're not doing too well. So be safe, wear a mask, distance as much as possible, and just be aware of your surroundings. But let me start right now. And of course, I'll take super chats throughout the video as well. Oh, of course. Also, I have a new Twitch show in the mornings, twitch.tv/The Rational National. The link to it is below the video in the description box. Follow, subscribe. It's a morning show, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. It's very laid back, conversational. Sometimes I don't even have a plan of what to talk about, and I just kind of engage with people. So come check that out if you are free in the mornings. All right. First story here. So the Joe Biden campaign has put out a couple of new videos. Now, I'm not sure if these are actually airing on television, though I think the one I don't like as much, I think that one is. But one I like, one I don't like as much. I do want to show you both, though. First, let me show you the one that really feels like a, a commercial for a pickup truck.
This job is about protecting Americans, not tear gassing them for a photo op. It takes strength, courage, compassion, resilience. That's a president.
All right. I don't know about that one. Now, look, caveat here. I mean, I don't think Biden really has to do anything at this point, honestly. In fact, the more he hides, the better. The less he does, the better. This election really just appears to be about getting out Donald Trump. So regardless of what these ads are, I don't think ultimately it matters all that much. But this is just, I don't know. It doesn't appeal to me. Maybe it'll appeal to some people. It feels like a commercial for a pickup truck. I mean, obviously that was the inspiration. It had to be. You watch like a commercial about, Ford, a Ford truck, the F-150. It's going to be very similar to that. So maybe this will appeal to some people. I don't know. It's 15 seconds long. So this appears to be the kind of ad that maybe will play before YouTube ads or, I don't know, on Facebook. But, it's not my favorite, but I guess it's not terrible either. I do want to show you, though, this one that I do like. Now, this is 20 seconds long. Again, a weird, I guess, time frame for a commercial. Ads are usually either 15 seconds or 30 seconds or maybe even a minute. So again, I don't know if this one's actually going to be playing anywhere, but Joe Biden posted this online, and I'm going to give you a tiny bit of information about who edited this after I play it. Check it out.
You are going to be so... You are going to be so proud of your country. We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more. You are going to...
All right. That one is great because this focuses on Donald Trump as the problem. At least in this case with COVID-19, of course, yes, Trump is a symptom. He's not the source of all issues. But when it comes to comparing the U.S. numbers right now with the coronavirus compared to other countries, the only other country that comes even close to what the U.S. has right now is Brazil. Another far-right extremist, Jair Bolsonaro, running Brazil. So two far-right extremists destroying their country with COVID-19, haven't taken it seriously from the start. It appears maybe now Trump is finally trying to suggest people should wear masks. I saw something about that, but really it has not been the message. And yes, you can also say there's been mixed messaging from the scientific community in terms of masks at the beginning, because there was a worry that people, if they wore masks, they wouldn't physically distance as much. The recommendation, or that there wasn't as much of a push for masks, because the real push was about staying home and just staying away from people in general. But now that we are, a lot of us, at least in other countries, are trying to get back to normal life, there is a massive push for masks because they do help. Now, of course, yes, the evidence appears to show that it helps other people more than it helps yourself. But if two people are wearing a mask, then there is a much lower chance of either of you getting the virus. So the more that people wear masks, the safer you are. Donald Trump didn't push for that and hasn't pushed for that, and in many cases has really treated this virus as a hoax. And in addition to that, he also has not done anything to really fight for financial help for families. So you look around the world, in Europe and Canada, there are either your guaranteed paycheck, or you have a UBI or like a quasi UBI, like in Canada, where if you lost your job because of COVID-19, you can apply for $2,000 a month. You will get that $2,000 a month. It's an online process. It's very quick. You can apply for it. You get it. Americans have very little. $1,200, not much of anything. And you're seeing now, like, this is not what's happening in the U.S. is not a second wave. This is the first wave continuing. These other countries that are down here, Canada, the UK, France, Italy, they may experience a second wave, which will come after this. But this is just a continuation and a growth of the initial wave for the U.S. So all people had to do, all your leaders had to do, was shut things down, tell people to stay home as much as possible, to wear masks, and also give people real financial help so they didn't feel the need to go out and try and make money and potentially spread the virus around. If those steps were taken at the start, you would be seeing similar numbers that everybody else is seeing right now. But they weren't. So this is the situation you're in. Now, I want to give you what I saw on Twitter, a cool bit of information here. So this video was apparently edited by a former Bernie campaign producer. I mean, it goes to show you. So I saw this ad before even knowing that, but even I'm trying to see how to put this here. Even with a flawed candidate, incredibly flawed candidate like Joe Biden, that talented Bernie staffers are able to do something in terms of video. And I mean, it kind of shows you their limitations when the focus, at least with this video, is on Donald Trump. And as it should be, because there isn't much you can really sell people with in terms of what Joe Biden's done, in terms of what he's fighting for. But this shows you the kind of skill, the kind of talent, the kind of ingenuity that people that work with Bernie Sanders have and can offer even a very flawed campaign in Joe Biden. So this really, I mean, probably is the best piece of video I've seen come out of the Joe Biden campaign. I mean, there have been other ads that have been done by outside organizations that have been all right. Again, mostly ones that attack Trump. But this is the first one out of the actual Joe Biden campaign that is actually pretty good. So hopefully if they do put out more content, this is their focus. The focus is on Donald Trump, as Joe Biden is, of course, incredibly flawed. Okay. Miranda Juvan on Super Chat says, followed you here from Twitch. First YouTube live stream. Thank you, David. Can't tell you how grateful I am to have found your voice. Awesome. I think this is the first time I've heard somebody from Twitch as found me on YouTube. Usually it's the other way around, but very cool. I just realized I had beans again. So maybe lots of burping between videos today as there was last week. But it is what it is. All right. I mean, I stopped eating meat probably 2 years ago now. So because, I'm low on groceries, when you're low on groceries, it's pretty much, beans are the staple for a healthy diet without much else around. By the way, if you're new to the stream, I'm my own producer, so I got to prep each story, which is why I'm a little silent here as I prep these links. Okay. So a police detective in Springfield, Massachusetts, has been fired after posting support for Black Lives Matter. Now, I'm going to give you all the context to this. And I mean, I'll give you my takeaway at the end of it. But here, let me just start with the headline here. So this is from Boston.com. Springfield police fire detective after pro Black Lives Matter post. So they go on to say here, Mass Live reported Wednesday that Florissa Fuentes, a 30-year-old detective who was recently promoted in the Special Victims Unit, was fired by department leaders on June 19th after a May 29th post on her personal Instagram account while off duty. The photo, which Fuentes later deleted, showed her niece during a protest in Atlanta following the killing of George Floyd by police in Minneapolis, holding a sign that said, "Shoot the F back," while another person's sign read, "Who do we call when the murderers wear the badge?" Quote, "After I posted it, I started getting calls and texts from coworkers," Fuentes told Mass Live. "I was initially confused, but then I realized that they thought I was being anti-cop. I wasn't. I was just supporting my niece's activism. I had no malicious intent, and I wouldn't put a target on my own back. I'm out there on the streets every day like everyone else." So this is... She ended up deleting the Instagram post. Now, first of all, I guess... I don't know. Unfortunately, the part of the advice here has to be, if you're worried about your job, keep your post private. Don't add people at work. Another piece of advice. But she ended up deleting the Instagram post, even though I don't think there's much wrong with it. She's supporting her niece. I understand the worry around, shoot the F back. I get it. But fine. She deleted the post. And she also apologized on Facebook. Once I get this out of the way. So she also apologized on Facebook, and look at the reaction here. So this is her post on Facebook, apologizing, saying, "To my fellow officers, I recently shared a post that a family member had posted of themselves protesting the recent death of George Floyd. I did not share this photo with any malicious intent, and I should have thought of how others might perceive it. I apologize to all of those who I've offended. I am not anti-cop. I wear my badge proudly and have committed my life and career to being a police officer." So, a very cordial apology. She apologized, deleted the post. The response, though. So it was enough for a few who responded, "I'm good, bro, no worries, and no, we are not all blue and need to support each other." But for others, the apology prompted more vitriol than the original post. "Keep your apology. You're too dangerous or too stupid to safely associate with," one fellow officer wrote. The apology was eventually taken down. Fuentes said she was told to keep her head down by supervisors and write out the negativity in the office when she typically preferred to be on the streets. So she took the post down, apologized, nothing's wrong with the apology, and still got shit for it. Now, this is the kind of thing where we shouldn't expect cops to be this fragile. And unfortunately, this is not surprising. Unfortunately, this response, from what we've seen of how cops act in public, this kind of response to even an apology is not surprising. But it should be surprising. This is the kind of police culture that you can't simply change with reform. How many times have we discussed reform? How many times has actual reform been implemented? You saw it in Minneapolis. They did all the Obama era police reforms. It didn't do anything. The issue is the cops have too much power. You can't simply change the police culture. It is what it is. So the only thing that you can do, the only power that we do have, is to defund them. Now, I will give some credit here to at least cops that are, again, afraid to speak out publicly, but they know it's gone too far. So here, fellow officer Fuentes, who asked to remain anonymous for fear of retribution, said he believes favoritism is rampant at the department, and Claprude, who is the police chief, had or police commissioner, had the option of extending Fuentes' probation period as opposed to firing her. Quote, "There's a lot of officers who are afraid to speak up about this issue and don't want to be targeted as well. Although we agree punishment should have happened," which I still, like, the fact that even the good cops are in agreement that, she definitely had to be punished for supporting Black Lives Matter. Although we agree punishment should have happened, she owned up to it immediately and said sorry, and she was sincere, the officer said. There are officers who lied on police reports. This is the main point here. There are officers who lied on police reports and have done worse things, yet they remain employed. So think of all of the crap that cops do, and much of it on camera, but a lot of the stuff not on camera, and they get to keep their positions. But here is a post on her personal Instagram page supporting her niece in her activism, and she gets fired over it. This is the kind of thing you just can't reform out of. You have to take their power away. This is the police culture, unfortunately. There is no easy way to change police culture. You just need less cops. You need less cops. You need to move much of the responsibilities into other areas. You can't have this one-size-fits-all force that deals with everything from mental health calls to domestic disputes to homelessness issues to the war on drugs, whatever. I mean, there are many ways to really tackle each of these issues. I mean, for example, the war on drugs, we should completely end that. But when it comes to mental health calls, public health officials, people that are specialized in those sorts of calls, should be the ones that are called to respond to those situations. But this is the only way out of it, is to ensure that cops don't have as much power as they currently do. And that's why the answer to all of this is always defund the police. You can't simply change the culture. The culture is what it is. It has deep roots. You got to defund the police. My hair is so long now that it gets in my face, and it's going to start being an issue. But I'm not getting a haircut, I'll tell you that. I'm not getting a haircut. Not right now. Okay. All right. Deborah Van Sant says, "You work hard and you're my favorite progressive voice. I agree with you 99.9% of the time." I'm curious what that 0.1% is, but thank you, Deborah. Junie McGraw, and of course, I don't expect everyone to always agree with me. That's what opinions are for. If my viewers agree with me all the time, you should probably question your own views, because I know I've been wrong at points. But Junie McGraw says, do you think, as a form of ironic justice, the rest of the world should build a wall around the U.S. to prevent the spread of COVID-19? Obviously, you're joking, but no, I just think, Americans, not even just Americans, leadership, politicians, they need to be held accountable for the damage they've done. Moves that Donald Trump have made or haven't made has led directly to deaths, directly to people getting the coronavirus, directly to a number of issues around the world. So we are seeing a slow shift. I know it doesn't seem like that in the past, 4 years, but we are seeing a slow shift. When you see elections like Jamal Bowman over Elliot Engel or AOC over Joe Crowley, you're seeing the ability to get out a lot of this corporate leadership, at least in one party. The GOP, forget about it. But if you can properly replace Democratic leaders with people that actually represent you, then you will get to a point where the policies that are discussed and debated and put forward are ones that actually come from real data and science and have the intention of actually helping people. But right now, Americans are not in that position. Celeste says, if it was a male cop, he wouldn't have been fired. I don't agree with that. I think he also likely would have been fired. The other part of that story that I guess I should have mentioned was that she was fairly new. She had joined the force in 2018, was still on, had just, I think she had just left the probationary period. So she had been there for over, I guess, 6 months or 3 months. And yeah, if it's someone who had been there a lot longer, then yeah, it's possible they would have not been fired because they had more seniority. But somebody who's new, they're going to, be very critical of you, especially when you're joining a new group and they have a certain culture, they have a certain way of looking at things. If already they're seeing that a new recruit is not in line with how they feel about certain issues, I guess in this case, you have to hate Black Lives Matter to be able to be a part of the group, then they're going to make you an outcast. And they have no problem firing you if you haven't been there that long. And that's kind of what happened. Okay, let me prep this next story. Sorry, this one involves several quotes, so I don't want to miss anything here. All right. I see new chats coming in. I'll get to those after. So Canadian and American Airlines are canceling their physical distancing policy. So they initially had a policy where they left the middle seat empty, and now, beginning, I believe, July 1st, they have ended that. Despite all the science, all the data showing that distancing helps. So the initial report here from CBC, Air Canada, WestJet to drop physical distancing policies as air travel picks up. So for the past few months, Air Canada has blocked the sale of adjacent seats in the economy class, and WestJet has done the same throughout the entire plane to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. The carrier said Friday they will revert to health recommendations from the United Nations Aviation Agency and the International Air Transport Association trade group. American Airlines also announced Friday that it will start booking flights to full capacity starting next Wednesday. Transport Canada listed physical distancing among the key points in preventing the spread of the virus as part of a guide issued to the aviation industry in April. So this is, I have more quotes to get to here, but this is something where not only does the actual separation of people help, as yes, masks are required on these planes, but they're not N95 masks, meaning that you're still, having a mask on doesn't completely protect you. It does does go a long way to actually preventing it or helping you not contract the virus, or helping others not contract it from you either. But you still breathe outside the mask. Your breath still comes, like, unless it's sealed around your mouth, there's still a chance of you getting it. And being away from people means that person is not breathing on you. So, I mean, if you've been on a flight in the past, I guess, 20 years, you know how horrible flying is and how close you are to the people beside you. So having that extra seat in the middle empty does go a long way. And it also has the added benefit of there being less people on the flight, meaning that there is less of a chance of someone on that flight having the virus. But of course, it comes down to them wanting to make, money off these flights and be able to pack them as much as possible. And that's why they've decided to make this move. There's one more quote here, though, that I want to reference here. So here we go. So some health experts have highlighted the risks of spreading COVID-19 in crowded airports and packed cabins. Quote, once it's in the cabin, it's difficult to stop air moving around, said Tim Sly, an epidemiologist and professor emeritus at Ryerson University's School of Public Health. However, Joseph Allen, director of the Harvard Public Health School's Healthy Buildings program, said the HEPA air filters used on most planes effectively control airborne bacteria and viruses. So there appears to be some disagreement here in terms of the ability for the virus to spread around the plane. So, I mean, the point here being that air in the plane is always, it's you could be in the back of the plane, and at some point on that flight, you're likely breathing the air that the person at the front of the plane was breathing. But Joseph Allen does make the point here that they have air filters on planes that I guess are supposed to control airborne bacteria and viruses, meaning that if that's the case, then those empty seats between you and the next person actually do go a long way to preventing you from getting the virus, if it happens to be somewhere on that plane. Now, I also want to show you here thoughts from Nikki Ashton. So NDP MP Nikki Ashton said the same physical distancing rules that apply throughout Canada should also apply on airplanes. Quote, this really speaks to the profit-driven agenda of the airlines, she said. The Canadian government should be doing a lot more than encouraging or shrugging its shoulders. Yeah, so there should be requirements here. And out of any industry or anything that humans do, I mean, flying around the country and potentially flying from outside the country is the absolutely the way that if there is a second wave, it'll likely be because of that, because of having somebody come from outside the country or from a province or a city where the virus is more common. Have that person come in, infect, people at the airport in that city they just arrived in, and more people in that city, and there you go. So this is just, obviously keeping the middle seat empty is not going to absolutely prevent every case from happening, but it is an extra measure that, when added on to the other measures like wearing the masks and just being safe and aware in general, would go to potentially help prevent the spread of the virus. And just read this quickly here. So BC health officials worried about airlines' plans to reduce physical distancing. So a lot of people are worried about this, not just, random critics. And also, CTV News here, this report from July 1st, passengers on Toronto to Halifax WestJet flight WS 248 may have been exposed to COVID-19, public health authorities warn. So this is how we're going to keep spreading this. Look, I guess people have to fly. I don't really know why. I know, I guess some jobs require it, but at this point, I don't understand. When we are in a pandemic like this, there has to be other ways to do your business than having to fly around. And apart from that, vacationing or visiting family, it's the kind of thing where, yes, we all want to do that, but wait. If we just wait, and wait as much as possible and are careful, then we will be able to get back to normal life sooner than if we prolong this virus by continuing to expose people through things like flying. So I'm just going to say what I say in every COVID-19 story. Be careful. Be careful. Stay home as much as you can. Physically distance as much as you can, and wear a mask whenever you go out. It's not too much to ask. Wearing a mask is not a huge burden. You can wear a mask. You will protect not only yourself, but other people as well in case you have it and don't have symptoms. So just be careful out there, because otherwise we're going to keep spreading this, and you're seeing the death tolls rise in the U.S. especially, but also around the world. You're not safe, even if you're young. And even if you think you are, or you don't care, think about the people in your life, or even just strangers that you may come in contact with that are older, that are more easily infected and able to get sick and die. Like, just don't just think about yourself. Think about others as well. And if we do that, and if we're careful, then we can help stop the spread as much as possible. Yeah. All right. I gotta stop doing depressing COVID stories. It just makes me think that we're never getting out of this, and you know what? It's a possibility. Okay, some super chats here. The Sing on the Left says, David, are you going to cover the Army PFC Vanessa Gillion, who was brutally murdered, and the Army has covered up her death with no real answers coming? I haven't read into that story. It is something I should look into, yes. And I will look into. Paul says, let people know we cannot only defund the police, we must ban civil asset forfeiture too. If not, they will legally steal what they need from the citizens. Look up Minneapolis Gang Strike Force. All right. Ido Shapira says, just wondering why you stopped eating meat. Good question. It just, from everything I've read, it's just healthier. And I know people are going to start freaking out now. Here for me, it's my choice, a personal choice. You can do what you want, eat what you want. I still eat fish. I still eat seafood. And I know I can never give that up, but it was a choice I made. And I mean, for me, what helped the choice was that there is a lot of great fake meat now. And if you've had Beyond Burger, I mean, a Beyond Burger basically tastes exactly like a hamburger, except I don't feel gross afterwards. So that's kind of the difference. Whenever I ate like a hamburger or a steak, I just didn't feel good. Chicken was a lot tougher for me to stop eating. I love chicken wings especially. So that was tougher. But again, I've gone out and I've had great chicken wing replacements, or, fake chicken, doused in chicken wing sauce. And it's exactly the same thing. I mean, chicken wings are great because of the sauce, not because of the chicken. So for me, once I realized the thing I liked about meat wasn't the meat itself, but it was the seasoning and the sauces, then it was a lot easier for me to get away from meat. And having those proper replacements like the Beyond Burger or other fake meat stuff is important as well. But of course, it isn't healthy to just eat that either. You want to eat more vegetables. And I mean, I just think in general, it encouraged me to be a little healthier. And I definitely feel healthier. So it works for me. It's not something I'm going to push on people. I know people are really sensitive about, their diet. Do what works for you. But this works for me. So that's why I stopped. Also, yeah, of course, in terms of animals and like it isn't just diet for me as well. I also like pigs. First thing I stopped eating was bacon, because pigs are basically like dogs. If you know enough about pigs, they're just as smart, if not smarter than dogs are. And once you see pigs interacting and acting the way they do, they have personalities. It's just, I'm sorry, I can't imagine eating a pig anymore. And other animals are the same. So it's definitely, it's a combination of all that. But ultimately, if I didn't feel good doing it, then I likely wouldn't have done it. But once you get used to the diet, it takes about 3 weeks to get used to any new diet. So give yourself 3 weeks, you get used to it, and I haven't looked back. Tavish says, who takes the role of the police? Do you support local militias? So I'm not for abolishing, but to be fair, I got to read more about abolishing police. So maybe there is a good argument. But I'm for taking responsibilities away. Are you for a one-size-fits-all force where officers have 10 different responsibilities with all their own way of handling each of those issues? How many stories have I done on mental health calls ending with people either being dragged across the floor and their head stepped on or being shot and killed? Like, do you support that? So, I mean, that's what I would ask people is, if you're against what I'm saying, so you support the way that cops currently handle all of, whether it's protests, whether it's mental health calls, I don't know how you can support that stuff, how you can support the way they deal with it. And part of it is, of course, police culture. Another part is just that they have too many responsibilities. It's human nature. If you have too much to do, too much to understand how to, I mean, again, different ways of dealing with different scenarios. If you have too much to do, you're just not going to be good at everything. So by taking certain responsibilities off of the police and into other areas, I think that actually helps the cops, so they can actually focus on what they can focus on. So that's my approach. I don't think there's ever going to be, like, if somebody, I don't know, tries to rob a bank or something, like, there's always going to be somebody responding to those calls. It's not going to be just, local militias or nothing. There's always going to be a role for police, but should it be called the police? Should police just be disbanded and then we build up several different agencies to handle different areas, and they don't all work together like the police currently do? There isn't this, singular, this like monoculture. I think that's a huge issue. Is the police culture, when you have this amount of power that the police unions have, and you see the kind of money poured into the police compared to areas like healthcare, like infrastructure, like housing. It shows you they have too much power. They have too much power. They take up way too much in terms of city budgets. They have too much power, and there's just better ways of handling all this. But yeah, for me, the debate it's just how much defunding. What are we defunding? How much defunding? So that's, I think, where the debate should be. Adam Bryceland says they need to destroy the Electoral College. Yes, they do. But I'm not sure how or when or if they're ever going to do that. Sam O says, I was wondering why you haven't talked about 45 retweeting someone saying white power and deleted it. Also, Ben Shapiro, what about ism on the issue? I talked about it on Twitch. So there you go. Was that this week? So much happens in a week now. I don't even know. If that was this week, I think I talked about it on Monday. The video on demand is still up on Twitch, I imagine. So You can go watch it there. I was going to cover it on YouTube as well. Honestly, it was just one of those things where I wasn't surprised, and I didn't really know what to take from it. It's one of those things where, yeah, of course Trump did that. Of course. And of course he pretended that it was a mistake and deleted it 3 hours later, even though it was up for 3 hours or 3 or 4 hours. And of course Ben Shapiro is going to defend it. Like for me, the whole story was just like a big giant, of course. So it wasn't, I didn't find it all that interesting, to be honest. If it was more interesting and it was like I don't know, something surprising, maybe I would have covered it. But to me, it wasn't at all surprising. Trump is, he's not a good person. He uses racism at the very least. At the very least, he uses racism and white supremacy and white nationalism to engage his supporters, and he does it all the time. Celeste says, "Sorry, I've just seen a lot of male cops post racist stuff on their social media, and nothing happens to them. I don't know." But that's a complete. Yes, that's what cops do. Cops post racist shit. That is different in terms of police culture. That is different than posting something that is pro Black Lives Matter. Posting something pro Black Lives Matter is against the normal thinking in police culture. Being racist is very normal in that culture. So that's why you don't see them get fired. I imagine it sounds like you have friends or family that are male cops. That's why you don't see those people get fired, but people that are in support of Black Lives Matter get fired. All right. I'm going to pause. I hear more coming in. I'm going to pause the super chats there so I can get to the next story here. So, grocery store workers at Safeway in Alberta have voted in favor of a strike. And this comes after their pay has been cut by $2 an hour. And this also comes while that company is making a ton of money. So, just to give you the top line here. So, Alberta Safeway Union votes to strike as contract talks stall. Hero pay removed. This from Global News. They go on to say the UFCW Local 401 union decided to hold the vote following stalemate contract talks despite the recent boom in the essential services grocery sector. Quote, the only way Sobeys will come to the table and bargain a fair contract is if they know we have the heart to fight them if necessary, even if it's not something we want to do. They need to know we're strong, Thomas Hess, the local union president, said during a telephone town hall last week. Sobeys, which owns Safeway, ended its Hero Pay program on June 13th, which gave employees an extra $2 an hour, although it had also reported increased profits to shareholders through the COVID-19 pandemic, which I will get to in a second. And by the way, this ending of the Hero Pay in Canada, this isn't just Sobeys and Safeway. This is across major grocery chains. So other companies, in addition to this company, did this all at the same time in a coordinated effort to stamp out this idea that people are going to be paid, that these frontline grocery workers are going to be paid more than they were being paid before the pandemic. So, of course, Sobeys' parent company raises quarterly dividend after cutting employee hazard pay. So shareholders now making more money, but employees, as I showed you, they're being cut down. So there's actually a quote here I want to reference. There we go. The Canadian grocery giant behind Sobeys, Safeway, and Freshco on Thursday announced it will raise its shareholder dividend after profits soared during the coronavirus pandemic, less than a week after the company cut its pay bonuses for frontline staff. Empire Co. Limited said its adjusted net earnings ballooned by 43% to $181 million in its fourth quarter compared to last year. In a statement Thursday, Chief Executive Michael Medline called the 13-week period, which ended on May 2nd, quote, one of our proudest quarters in Empire's 113-year history. One of their proudest quarters ever. And they're cutting pay for their employees. Man, this is capitalism 101 right here. So the company said it was increasing its quarterly dividend by 8.3% to 13 cents a share. And last week, as I told you, they ended their program called Hero Pay. They gave $2 per hour pay premiums for frontline staff. Also, I mean, I got to remind you, the virus isn't gone. It's still in Canada, still happening. There may be a second wave. So even if you wanted to say, well, it was just going to be for the pandemic, even though I think they should be paid at least $2 more an hour. I mean, grocery store workers, they have a tough job, and their job is even tougher right now. And understanding that this virus is not gone, it is still going on. They can still contract it. They're still putting their lives at risk working in these grocery stores. They have cut their pay while making a ton of money. And this is exactly what these companies do. Or this showcases their exact mental framework in terms of how they view their employees and what they actually prioritize. Now, I also want to share this from Jerry Dias, who's the Unifor president. So Unifor is a big trade union in Canada. With profits like this, Sobeys and the rest of the Empire chain can't afford #fair pay forever for the workers who made it possible. Yeah. So there is a solidarity with grocery workers all across Canada that are facing these greedy companies that just continue to see massive profits. One of the few industries during this crisis that really benefited because, I mean, if you're like myself, you went grocery shopping more during this pandemic. So people shopping more at grocery stores, they're making a lot more money, and their workers are the reason they're able to make that money. They're the ones putting the work in so that these stores can actually function and take customers in, putting all this work in, risking their lives, making all this money, and they cut their pay. There is absolutely no defense of this, and I'm very happy that these union workers are standing up and fighting back. And look, I hope they don't have to strike and that they can reach a deal before this. But if they have to, good for them, and definitely stand with them. Okay. More chats here. Wow, a lot of engagement today. Very cool to see. All right. Leslie Brown says, "Hi. Did you see the NBC article how the officers charged in George Floyd's death could get their jobs back? Union leaders and attorneys say they were fired without due process." At the very least, Derek Chauvin or Chauvin, whatever the hell his name is, no. He is likely going to go to jail. I know we're not used to seeing officers get jail time, but in that case, considering how high profile it is, considering what it was, considering even like Fox News commentators couldn't believe their eyes, I will say yes, that is usually what happens. Usually cops that are in situations like this can get their jobs back. In this case, I don't think it's going to happen. But I haven't read the article. Maybe they make a different case. I got to read it. But I have a hard time imagining that would happen. Otto Kopetsky says, "Thanks again, David, for all your work. And thank you again for staying independent and not selling out. Stay true to your values." I'm not even sure how I would sell out. Like, who would hire me? I hosted a radio show, there's very little money in radio, unless I guess you're there for a while. But like, luckily I was able to say whatever the hell I wanted on that radio show. Of course, can't swear and be too crazy, but yeah, I would never sell out, whatever that means. And it's because I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy having full control over my schedule. I like working from home. I mean, there's many benefits to doing what I do, and I also enjoy being my own boss. But yeah, I would never sell out. But thank you. Skank Hunt 42 says, any chance of seeing you on the Majority Report? I don't know. They usually have people on that are like their interviews are experts in certain fields, so that wouldn't apply to me. But I guess occasionally they'll have people on like Ben Dixon. But I don't know. I'm good. I got so much work to do that is just like, if I had to, the amount of anxiety involved in being on someone else's show, and like, it's just, I get weird like that. Like, I enjoy what I do. I enjoy my schedule. If somebody asked me to be on their show, like I was on someone's podcast this week, I enjoy doing it. But it's not something that I have any desire to like fight for. I'm not messaging people to be on their show. Like, I don't really care. I could take it or leave it. But that's a good show too. Check them out. Sally Shaw says, although it's not likely, if Trump drops out, do you think there is anyone on the right that could challenge Biden? Let me read this again. If Trump drops out, do you think, who replaces Trump? So I should do a video on that story because I think it's ridiculous. The idea of Trump dropping out. Trump would benefit from staying in the race, losing, and then saying it was rigged. Like, that's what he's going to do. Him dropping out before then, I'm not really sure how that benefits him if he's already laying the groundwork for calling it a rigged election. So, I think it would be great. It'd be great for the country if he did that. Maybe the only good move that he would make during the presidency is dropping out. But that's why I don't see it happening. He's too narcissistic to drop out before the election. But I guess if he did, is there anyone on the right that could challenge Biden? Tucker Carlson? I know that sounds disgusting, but I'm seeing reports now that he may even think about running in 2024, which is terrifying. But it would have to be a celebrity. It wouldn't be anybody in the Senate, nobody in Congress. It would have to be a celebrity. So maybe someone like Tucker, but otherwise I don't think it's really possible. Not that Biden's good, but just that people are done with Trump, and Trump's base is so with Trump that they're not going to come out for, I don't know, some like Mitch McConnell or something, or maybe they would actually. Maybe Mitch McConnell. But I don't know. I think Trump's support on the right is really about Trump, and it's not about the GOP. So if he drops out, they definitely got problems, but they already have problems. David Melford says 911 call service should be reformed. The operator should be highly trained, skilled, educated, and experienced. Too many calls are ridiculously handled. I don't know enough. My understanding is they are highly trained, at least in Canada. I haven't really heard any complaints about the actual people on the end of the. I mean, that's a hard job. One of the hardest jobs. It has to be answering 911 calls. I can't even imagine. But it's more about what options they have. So yes, I agree with you in the sense that they need different options. Like a mental health call shouldn't go to the cops. Mental health call should go to people that are unarmed, that are trained in dealing with those sorts of calls. So there's a different way of approaching that. But that isn't on the actual operators. That's on the process that they're given to work with. Tavish says, hell, I don't support police actions at all. I just like playing devil's advocate. Haha. Oh, that was okay. That was in relation to you asking about the role of police. Cool. Not that, I mean, again, all different viewpoints are welcome. So even if you had that view, I wouldn't hold it against you. I just wouldn't agree with you. Sam O says, thoughts on Nike and FedEx demanding that the Washington Redskins change their name. Good. Again, a story that's came up while I was prepping this show, so I haven't really read much into it, but I did see that Nike pulled all Redskins merchandise off their website. So, I mean, it's about time. But it's also important that we don't get stuck just in the symbolism. Yes, it's important to pull down statues that people see every day of these Confederate leaders, or yes, it's important to get rid of the Redskins, I guess, logo and name. But understanding that is also it can't just end there. I mean, there has to be a real analysis of the actual system and how it holds people down. Solidarity with all essential workers from Samantha Sider. Thank you. Is that a play on? Never mind. All right. Moving on. Let me get to the next story here. Okay, this one. I'm not going to say this in the video, but I'll say this now. You're going to see a little violence here, and it may be disturbing. Just letting you know beforehand. All right. A cop in Miami has been fired after hitting a woman in the airport, and it was all caught on camera. So let me show you the video here, and this may be disturbing to some people, just letting you know ahead of time, but watch this.
I really should. You acting like that you black. You acting like you white when you really black. Don't walk up on me for real. Hey, what you want to do?
All right. That's hard to watch. Clearly, you saw the altercation there. So I will give you more context. In fact, it may say it here. So this is from Billy Corbin. Update: Paris Anderson, that's the woman who was hit, who's 21, threatened and cursed at employees who wouldn't let her board American Airlines flight to Chicago. Officer Anthony Rodriguez wrote she violated his personal space, bumped him with her body, and struck him on the chin with her head. That did not happen. It's possible her head may have grazed his face mask, but he was not struck on the chin. This giving you another example of how police lie, and that you just can't simply take their reports as fact, because they're always going to write it from a perspective of them defending themselves, of them writing a story that puts them in a good light. Now, that isn't to say, look, I don't think it's good to be cursing at employees, obviously. I mean, the amount of, yes, a lot of airlines suck. We know that. Flying sucks in general. But it's often not the employees behind the desk, it's not their fault. So to berate them and yell at them and threaten them, it doesn't do anything. But as the cop dealing with this situation, you don't hit this person who is not initiating any violence with you, isn't hitting you, isn't doing anything to you. The officer is the one that initiated the violence. And this is often what happens, and this is often how they write it. If they're just casually grazed on the arm, they'll say, "Oh, he or she struck first, and that's why we had to fight back." When that's not at all obviously what happened. But here, from Parker Branton, Miami-Dade Police Director Alfredo Ramirez has ordered that the officers at the center of a now viral body cam video be relieved of duty. So both officers have been relieved. The video appears to have happened at Miami International Airport, which indeed it did. And let me also give you the comments here from Miami-Dade County Mayor Jimenez.
Look, when I first saw it, obviously it was uncalled for. I need to apologize. We need to apologize to the lady that was struck by the officer, and Miami-Dade County deeply apologizes for that. But again, the actions of the officer, the excessive use of force, cannot be condoned, and action will be taken, and swift action will be taken, against this officer. He's already been suspended, and like I said, the director, there are procedures that he must follow, and so I expect further action on this issue sometime later today. It was obviously an excessive use of force. That officer has been suspended. The director now is taking, there are certain procedures that he must follow, and we expect further action later today. Again, there's things that he has to follow legally and procedurally.
So I may have made a mistake earlier. I said he was fired. It sounds like he was just suspended. So he may not have been, he may not have completely lost his job. But it's an example, just one of many examples. How many examples do we have now? I've covered several, but there are every single day. There's a new example and caught on video. Think of all the ones that aren't caught on video. But an example of a cop losing his temper. And they feel that they can do this because they get away with it. In most cases, they get away with it. In most cases, there isn't a video. In most cases, they go by the police report. So it's the cop's word against the victim's word. And who are they going to go with? They're going to go with what the cop said. Because the cop, in their eyes, is trustworthy. We can trust him. This person who was assaulted, well, who knows? It sounds like they hit the cop first. So we got to go with what the cop says. There's no other evidence. So by default, they go with what the cop says. But we see over and over again how often the police are untruthful. And this is why it's important. I mean, I was going to say, this is why it's important that good cops speak out. But when good cops speak out, they get fired. So it goes back to police culture. It goes back to the real inability to change police culture, which is why a lot of their responsibilities, I think, should be divided up among several different departments that aren't, in contact, aren't working together. Because when you have this one-size-fits-all police force that has as much power as these police forces, these police unions have, and you see the amount of money poured into their budgets compared to housing, healthcare, infrastructure, other areas, I mean, it shows you how much power they have as an organization. And the only way to attempt to stop any of this and change any of this culture is to limit the amount of power that they have and divide their responsibilities up among several different groups. Be it, for one example, mental health calls should go to a mental health professionals that deal with that. So you take that approach to other areas as well when it comes to the police. Yes, there's always going to be, a need to have first responders to very dire situations. But there's a way to handle all of this that is not that doesn't just send every single call to this one-size-fits-all force that has way too much power and has this very toxic culture that allows this kind of abuse to go on. Okay. by the way, I should mention, every single video of me being critical of cops and showing videos like that have been demonetized and deplatformed. Meaning that unless you follow me on YouTube or you've watched my videos before, you likely will not be suggested those videos. So it's hard for the word to get out about stories like that. So it's important when you see a story like that, and there's a video, I put one out this morning, demonetized, of course. Videos like that, it's important to share those around. And also, like your super chats help a lot with this channel, because I've been covering a lot more of these kinds of stories. And while I'm not making much of any money off this work, it's important to highlight these stories. So just if you see a video like that, try and share it, because it's not likely getting to a lot of eyeballs that haven't already seen my channel. All right. The thing on the left says, I applied for 911 operator. There is an initial year of training, and you get further training. People there told me it is highly stressful, high turnover. Yeah, it has to be. Yeah, that is a tough job. That is definitely a tough job. JAT Hammer says, would you ever consider bringing on Howie Hawkins or Angela Walker? Also, what kind of camera do you use? I use a Canon C100 that I initially got for documentary and music video work, and then I use it for this now. So it's an old camera now, but it's solid. Would I ever consider bringing on Howie Hawkins or Angela Walker? Maybe. It's for me, it would have to be more of a discussion about, I don't know. Because while I support, like what Howie Hawkins, I'm sure, is fighting for, this election for me is about getting out Donald Trump. So, like, what the Green Party has to do is, and this is not really on Howie Hawkins or the National Green Party, but there has to be, or any third party, there has to be investment, I think, at the local level, at the state level first. If you begin to build power and a name doing that, and maybe, get a congressperson in, then that's where you begin to show that you have an ability to grow a movement on a national level. But to just start with the top of the ticket for the most important job in the entire fucking world, it's just, I don't think it's a great strategy, and it hasn't worked out, has it? So if they invested the time and resources into local races and into building and being involved in the community, whatever community it is, and maybe even just focusing on a few states at first, and build up the recognition that way, that is a way you can eventually, that is a way to build a party and build interest in a national movement. But you can't just parachute in every 4 years and expect to win. Or, I mean, even getting 5%, yeah, it'll help a little bit, but it's not, I don't think it's the best way to go about it, personally. So, if I had Howie Hawkins on, I would talk about that. I would ask him about that, what his thoughts are, because I don't get using the same strategy every year, every 4 years, and not, maybe there are Greens and other third parties working at the local level, but they haven't built it yet. So I don't know. But it's a discussion worth having for sure. Let me grab one more here. Miranda Juvon says, for you, spreading the word, rising up, staying strong, and most of all, defunding the police. No justice, no peace, no racist police. Thank you, Miranda. All right. I think I have more stories here. Don't I? I do. The potentially first political story of the day, or in terms of electoral politics. Yeah, let me get to this. All right. So there is some new polling out that I want to share with you, as it apparently shows that it shows the divide between people that don't like Biden and people that do like Joe Biden in terms of Democratic voters and who they would want as Biden's VP. And it's completely different depending on if the people already like Joe Biden and plan to vote for him. And it's an important point worth showcasing here, because if Biden picks the wrong VP, it may have an impact. Though I will say I do think this election largely for many people is about getting out Donald Trump. So ultimately, it may not even matter what Biden says or does, as people's focus is purely on getting out Trump, regardless of who the Democratic nominee or ticket is. But let me show you this data anyways. So this is from YouGov. So the headline here: Harris' advantage comes from enthusiastic Biden supporters, while Warren and Abrams do better with Biden doubters. This is very important. Now, Abrams, really should be out of the discussion. Look how little support she has. But Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren. So people that want to see Kamala Harris as the vice president are already enthusiastic about Joe Biden. Whereas Elizabeth Warren, people that want Elizabeth Warren as the vice president, are dissatisfied, upset, or not sure about Biden. So me, as somebody who is a massive critic of Elizabeth Warren, I don't, honestly, I'm not even sure if there'd be any difference at all between Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren on the ticket. I don't trust either. In terms of actually fighting for people's needs over what special interests, big money are going to say that are in Biden's ear. So, but putting that aside, just in terms of a ticket, who's going to excite the kind of coalition necessary to win the presidency? Again, understanding that Biden, it may not matter at all. But if there is a worry here that people on that are dissatisfied or upset about Joe Biden, if there is a worry that they're going to stay home, picking Kamala Harris is not going to net you too much support. Going with Elizabeth Warren will. Now, I would love to see a version of this poll that shows Bernie Sanders, but of course, Biden's already said he's going to pick a female vice president. It's not going to be Bernie Sanders. But I guarantee you, a Biden-Bernie ticket would be the best ticket. It just would, because that is actually combining the divide in the party into a single ticket. But here, clearly, Elizabeth Warren is the better choice. Now, I do think there is less of a chance of that happening at this point. And I really do think that the Biden campaign will likely go with symbolism over any actual substance. So they're seeing the protests right now, the George Floyd murder in the street. It's really going to, I think, push Biden towards either Kamala Harris or Val Demings. So it's the likelihood of Biden picking a white woman as his VP. I just think over the past few months the chance of that is now less than it was before. Really, I think Klobuchar almost had it in the bag until it came out that Klobuchar had not prosecuted Derek Chauvin, the guy the officer that killed George Floyd, had not prosecuted him earlier when she had the opportunity as a prosecutor. So that killed her chances. And then she came out and said, "Oh, Biden should pick a black woman as his VP," knowing full well that she only dropped out of the race for vice president because she knew Biden was going to pick her. But anyways, putting that story aside, I do think there's just less of a chance of it happening. I think in fact, if I were to bet right now, I think Biden's going to pick Kamala Harris. and he said he's going to make a choice by, I think, August or by the beginning of August. So we're going to have to wait and see who that pick is. But I mean, Barack Obama is definitely in Joe Biden's ear, and I'm sure he's pushing Kamala Harris. Now, I wonder if what Kamala Harris did to Joe Biden in that first debate, if that's going to have an impact on Biden, how he feels about Kamala Harris, and does he think that he can actually work with her? And does he want to, potentially expose himself to the kind of attack ads that would have Donald Trump putting videos out there of Kamala Harris going after Joe Biden in commercials? Because that ad writes itself. The Trump campaign for sure is going to do that if Kamala Harris is the VP. So does Joe Biden want that? I don't know. I think, politics aside, I think Joe Biden likes Elizabeth Warren more as a person than he likes Kamala Harris. So that would lead me to believe that Elizabeth Warren still has a shot. But all of this ultimately may not even matter. As I said, this is the kind of race where I didn't expect this months ago. I thought it was definitely going to matter what Joe Biden did, that there was definitely, it was almost going to be hard for him to win the election because of the kind of support, the strong support that Trump has, the enthusiasm Trump has with his base compared to the complete lack of enthusiasm for Joe Biden. That usually makes a difference. In most races, that makes a difference. Lack of enthusiasm definitely hurts Democrats. But this is a case where, despite the lack of enthusiasm, there is a immense hatred for Donald Trump and Trump's administration. And the enthusiasm or lack thereof for Biden doesn't really matter. That enthusiasm doesn't matter as much as it has in the past because of Donald Trump and how much he is hated. So this conversation really is just almost for fun, I think, because I don't think it's really going to matter in terms of winning the election. And in terms of who has that kind of power and who may run in 4 years, if Biden doesn't run for a second term, which I think is very likely considering Biden's mental state, then we're looking at potentially the next president here. It could be Kamala Harris, could be Elizabeth Warren. While I don't trust either, I do think there's a potential to maybe pull Warren more or have Warren be more reactive to movements in the streets if she is leading the ticket. But behind Joe Biden, I imagine her not doing much of anything, the same way that Kamala Harris, I'm sure, would be the same. So either way here, not great choices, and ultimately none of this may matter. But I do tend to think that he's leaning towards Kamala Harris. All right. All right. I think I'm should I also do maybe I'll do this afterwards, but there's a few stories that I didn't get to prep in time that I considered covering as well. So I will get to those in a minute. But for the most part here, I've done my main stories. Let me get some of these chats. Melinda Ortega says, are you covering the PFC Vanessa Gian story in Texas? If not, please do. Somebody else asked that earlier. I will read more into it. There's just, this is the problem with being one person. And me also trying to also cover, Canada sometimes. I'm just not going to see everything. And I definitely have not read into that story. I've seen headlines, but it's not something I've read into. But I will read more into it, as it does appear to be something that people want to hear about. K2 Chi says, thanks for your good work. Thank you for your super chat. Junie McGrath says, this is more for petty reasons, but I would love to see Warren as VP just to make K-Hive Twitter angry. You know what? I wonder how much K-Hive is really exists. I just feel like there's so many fake accounts online, and it gives the appearance of real support, but we saw her campaign completely collapse even before voting started. Yeah. I wouldn't get too worked up by K-Hive either way. I mean, for me, I wouldn't mind seeing the total or the anger coming from the media figures that are for Kamala Harris, as many of them are just completely empty in their politics. But in terms of people online or on Twitter that are anonymous, I don't care. Miranda Juvan says, remember back when TYT was guessing who Bernie's VP would be? Yesterday. I voted for Bernie in 2 primaries now. Sad man. Yeah. I was also... In fact, if you go back to some of my early videos, really early videos, I was doing... I think I had like a video of like a top 3 VP picks for Bernie back in 2016. My top pick back then, Nina Turner. That's who I said I wanted to see. And that was back in 2016. And I felt the same way in 2020. But yeah, this is an alternate universe, unfortunately. All right. Chats are over for now. If more come in, I'll read them. Let me show you just a few stories that I didn't get to, but things that I thought about covering. So this one is I think kind of speaks for itself here. Shane D. Kavanaugh tweeted out, on the first day of Oregon's statewide mask order, a group of Oregon state troopers refused to wear face coverings inside or a Corvallis. We don't have these here, so I assume I'm saying it right. Corvallis coffee shop, despite being asked to do so. Governor Kate Brown, one of the troopers reportedly said. There's video too. Now, unfortunately, this is paywalled. Oh, not anymore. That's so weird. It was paywalled earlier. The fact that it was paywalled was one of the reasons I didn't cover this story. By the way, Last of Us, just finished that last night. I wish I could talk about it, but I don't want to give anybody any spoilers. But great game. Anyways, so let's see if we can see the video. All right, here we go. How long is this? 3 minutes. There's no audio in this. Look at them. God. So entitled, these people. Just wear a damn mask. It's really not a problem. And you think as well, the amount of interactions that cops have with people during the day. They could be carrying the virus. They could be asymptomatic. Like, just have some respect for other individuals. Ultimately, what this shows me, I assume there's no audio on here like they said there was. Ultimately, what this shows me is just the attitude that police have to the public. I mean, this is the perfect example of it. Everyone else has to wear a mask. They feel like they don't have to. They feel like they're above the law. They're above society. They get to do whatever the hell they want. While everyone else, even if they don't want to wear a mask, got to wear a mask to be inside. It's yeah. It just speaks for itself. I can't say it's surprising at all. Just want to see if there's like a... Okay, I'm not seeing any audio here. Just that one video. But that was a story I did not do. Show you another one. So, ballot measure in Oklahoma. So Michael Schur tweeted this out. I wasn't going to, make a story out of his tweet, but based on what he's saying here, Oklahoma's funded by ballot initiative. They have legalized medical marijuana, made all possession charges misdemeanors, and have now expanded Medicaid. They haven't had a Dem senator since 94 and haven't voted for a Dem for president since 64. Biden should run there as a ballot initiative. So this goes to the point that I made in my video this week on, I forget the title of it. Sometimes I feel like I can't really encapsulate what a video is going to be about in just a title, because oftentimes I go on tangents and I go to another piece of the story that is just not in the video. Like the video, if you saw the Herman Cain video, Herman Cain gets COVID-19. Most of that video, the last half of that video or more, is me just showing you the numbers in the U.S. compared to other countries, and also talking about Brazil, I think, as well in that video. It's not really about Herman Cain. Herman Cain's kind of like the entry point. But this is why, to plug my own stuff, you got to watch my videos. Because even if you think you're not into a certain story, it's possible I'll get into a topic that you want to hear about. But what was I saying? So yeah, this one. This one here. People are done. So you look at the polling I showed in this video, and how people feel about certain policy issues. People are very progressive. I'm not going to go through all this again, but you can watch this video. People, in terms of what they want to see from the government and the response to the coronavirus, they want a UBI. They want their paychecks guaranteed to them. They want healthcare guaranteed to them. Like on the actual issues, on the substance, people are a lot more left-wing than the media lets on, or that, you know, the vast majority of people even think. Because oftentimes the way that left, right, or Democrat, Republican is discussed is more on cultural issues. And they ignore in terms of economic policy. But even like, I think it's here somewhere. When you ask people how they feel about, here it is. Okay, it's here somewhere. Here you go. Like views on economic issues. People still think, like, they'll think they are conservative, more conservative than liberal on economic issues. But they'll support unions, they'll support a higher minimum wage, they'll support, Medicare for all. People don't, they have a different idea of what different labels mean. So when anyone says, oh, I'm liberal, or I'm conservative, or I'm moderate, 9 out of 10 times that person has mislabeled themselves. Because if you actually ask them, do you support healthcare for everyone? Do you support guaranteed healthcare at the point of use, free healthcare at the point of use? They'll agree with you. They'll say yes. Do you support a higher minimum wage? They'll say yes. Do you support free public college? They'll say yes. Medicare for all, whatever the hell it is. Most cases, they will support those issues. So when you see something like this, where Oklahoma, is completely red, but in terms of ballot initiatives, they keep voting for progressive issues or left-wing issues, it shows you a real disconnect between what people view as Republican or conservative or Democrat, liberal, progressive, left-wing, and what reality actually is. So this is why we have so much work to do as a society in terms of informing people about, and I mean, really, it's about the people over 45. People under 45, I think, have a better idea. But Generation X, boomers, and people in general who don't just pay attention, and, they have busy lives, whatever, that's fine. But they don't really have a true idea of what policy fits in what label. They vote against their own interests. They do it all the time. People do it all the time. And I'm not blaming the electorate. People are busy. But it's the job of the media, supposed to be, to inform people. But of course, the job of the media actually is in propaganda. And having people fall in line, back to status quo, don't question change. And that's the result that we get. We get terrible people leading us. But one last thing here. Let me just play this video. This made me laugh. Maybe you will laugh at this as well.
The Democrats have just run their 2020 presidential campaign. It doesn't matter who this is what they're going to do. Now, if you like living in this world where you've got, you call the fire department and Antifa shows up and they, first of all, ransack your house and abuse your family and then they burn the house down, and there's no police, and you got constant, your cities are unlivable. You've got Antifa ruling the governors and the mayors, and the police are backed off, and there's violence in the streets every day. If this is, and dare want to go to church, you can go to an abortion clinic. They'll be open 24 hours. You go to church, you better watch out or you'll be accused of spreading COVID. I mean, they've got it all architected. So if that's the world in which you want to live.
Yes, they have it so architected that right now Democrats have no power. People on the left, Antifa, have no power, especially. It's just like, this is the world they have to create for themselves. Yes, Joe Biden's America. Antifa are going to answer 911. They're going to come. Hey, Antifa, I got a problem here. Someone's breaking my house. They come over. They burn your house down. Like, what? This kind of commentary, this doesn't exist on the left. There is no insanity like this that is on the left. Like, what even is the equivalent of this? Like, I don't know what the equivalent of this would be. Like, because reality is depressing enough. Reality is harsh enough, is bad enough that we don't have to make shit up. We just can look at objective reality and see, hey, you know what? I don't think the cops should be able to just kill people and get away with it. And that's what? That's radical to say that? Like, it's there is no need for there to be any kind of insane media on the left, because reality is already insane, and we just have to cover that and show. And also, of course, we're critical of both parties all the time. In fact, I probably do more videos about Democrats because you expect more out of Democrats than we should expect out of the GOP. Because the GOP is never going to change. With Democrats, there's at least glimmers of hope here and there with like AOC, Jamal Bowman, Mondaire Jones, Bernie Sanders. Well, independent, but caucuses with the Democrats. Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar. So like, there's moments like that, or politicians that represent actual change. But we're critical of both. On the other hand, you get this, where they have to pretend. This is also another thing this showcases, is that it doesn't matter who Democrats put up. There is no fear of them thinking Bernie's too far left, because they're going to make Joe Biden be Antifa. So if Joe Biden's now part of Antifa, then what the fuck? Might as well just go as far left as possible, because they're going to make shit up about you anyways. So it's just, yeah. But of course, most of you already know this, and we all know the Democratic Party is the way it is because of the interests that back them, not because they are just bad at strategy. I keep saying strategy. Mixing up my G's and my T's. All right. Are there more comments here? Another one. All right. I'm going to go soon. So if you're going to get a super chat in, put it in now. There's about a minute delay. Put it in now, and I will, to make sure I get to it before I sign off here. Michael Cuomo. Come on, Cuomo. Says Redskins owner Dan Snyder has done worse to his fans, sold expired food, beer, kicked off fans, season ticket holders, etc. So he's kicked people off, kicked season ticket holders off, I guess, having their season tickets. Sold expired food, beer, though, is quite something. Though, you know what? It's possible that happens a lot, and we just don't know. How does beer even go expired? Like, enough people at football games, I imagine, buy beer. I have to imagine, because I haven't been to a football game, but I've been to like baseball games and hockey games. There's enough beer sold at sporting events that how do you have so much beer that you have beer that can go expired? Seems kind of crazy. But we will see if the Redskins change the name. I haven't checked in the past 3 hours, but I'm sure they're going to have to respond in some way. All right. This has been great. I'm going to have to go now. Let me just grab a couple chats here before I leave. Some random ones. Coach Simmons says, dude, what happened to the good cops? They were fired, as I showed you earlier. If you back Black Lives Matter, you get fired. But there's many, not even just that. Like, there's many stories like that where cops have spoken up against corruption in their own force, and they're the ones that are actually let go. There's many stories like that because it's the culture again. The dominant culture in these forces usually aren't pro-human; they're pro-blue. And it's unfortunate too, because when I do stories like this, I think about there have to be cops that have got into that line of work because they thought they would do good, because they thought they could help. Maybe they were even aware of the police culture and thought that they could change it, but they get there and they're the outcasts for standing up for what's right, and it's sad. Like, imagine dedicating your life, dedicating your schooling, your profession to being a police officer, and then just ending up there and realizing there's nothing you can do because it's the entire weight of the police culture is in one direction and you're in the other. It's just it's really unfortunate, but it's also deeply rooted in a history that, I mean, it all makes sense. Miranda Juvan says, thanks, David. This was epic. Please say hi to Heat. Please say hi to Heat. And Black Caucus for me from Twitch. Oh, I will. I forgot. You're the Twitch person. I will. Thanks for coming by and thanks for the super chats. Really cool to have someone from Twitch come and discover me on here. All right. For all you gamers out there, I'm going to have to find some way to discuss my thoughts on The Last of Us 2 because it's in my brain. It's rolling in my brain. And I want to just like shout it out and discuss it. But I'm not sure yet how exactly I will do that, but I will do that at some point. All right. Thank you all for coming here. And this was a great time. Be back again on Monday morning live stream on Twitch. Come check it out. And until then, see y'all later. Goodbye.